My name is Camila Rivera. I am 26, and tonight the man I loved since we were kids walked out of prison and asked me if I still knew how to keep a promise. I told him I wasn't that girl anymore. My mouth said it. My hands shook like I was lying. Mateo and I grew up on the same street, 2 houses apart, our moms trading sugar and worries over the fence. We learned to ride bikes on the same scarred sidewalk. We learned to steal mangoes from Mrs. Vidal's yard, then to steal time from curfews, then to steal kisses under the broken streetlight that buzzed like a secret. He used to say I was his compass. I used to say he was my North Star. Stars fall. Compasses spin. When we were 19, he got pulled into something I didn't understand. A friend of his, a cousin of that friend. Talk about a fast score. Talk about how you can love a girl and still need cash to put food in your mother's fridge. A pharmacy robbery that went loud. A gun that wasn't supposed to be loaded. A clerk who didn't die but would wake up to nightmares forever. Mateo wouldn't give up names. He took a plea. He asked me to wait. I told him I would. For 2 years, I wore his absence like a denim jacket in summer, heavy and too much. I wrote letters that came back smeared because I cried on them before the ink dried. I visited and learned the smell of correctional air. I told him the city was changing, that I was changing, that I'd enrolled in night classes at the community college, that I'd started working days at a bakery, that I was saving money for the dream we used to fold between us like a blanket. But our neighborhood had a way of reminding you that dreams came with prices. Mrs. Vidal used to whisper about La Madrina, a woman who helped families but never for free. She dressed like old money, smiled like she knew every secret, and people said she had a hand in half the stories you never wanted to make the front page. I didn't think she'd ever matter to me. Then my dad had a stroke. Then my mom needed me to move back into the small apartment to help. Then the bakery cut hours. Then letters from Mateo slowed. Then I met Ethan. Ethan Cole was a patient where I volunteered at the rehab clinic after my dad's discharge. Not for therapy, but because he delivered software for their scheduling system and couldn't figure out a printer, which made me laugh. He laughed too. He had that tidy kind of smile, the kind you see in commercials for toothpaste and mortgages. He looked like the kind of guy who holds doors and actually listens. He asked for coffee because I had saved him from the mutiny of a paper jam. I said yes because he looked like a clean hallway after a room full of smoke. He was 29. He worked in tech. He asked about my family, my classes, my neighborhood, my favorite pan dulce. He brought stew for my parents and learned how to eat my mother's over-salted beans without making a face. On the 4th week, I told him about Mateo. His eyes flickered, something quick, unreadable, then softened. He said everyone makes mistakes. He said sometimes good people get lost. He said the most dangerous thing in the world is the story we tell ourselves when we are lonely. He didn't push. He just kept showing up. So when Mateo's letters got shorter and my guilt got quieter, I let Ethan take me on a date with cloth napkins. I let him hold my hand in a way that felt careful, like I was new glass. Mateo's release day came in spring, 7 years gone, and I knew that date like my own birthday. I stood outside the prison gates, sun in my eyes, heart too loud. When Mateo walked out, he looked older, sharper, like life had sanded him down to bone and weapon. He stopped inches from me, close enough that I could count the flecks of gold in his eyes. The first thing he said was that he'd thought about me every night. The second was that he didn't expect to see me. We went to my parents' place. He ate eggs like he was catching up for lost time, washed the dishes without being asked. We walked to the basketball court where he'd first said he'd marry me one day, when he was 13 and brave. Then he told me something that made the wind stop moving. A cousin of his old friend bragged last month that someone had tipped the cops the night of the pharmacy job, described the getaway car, even the jacket Mateo wore. The name that kept coming up? Ethan. 2 months earlier, I'd found a locked box in Ethan's pantry. I didn't open it. I told myself curiosity isn't always betrayal, but that box had been waiting in the back of my mind ever since. Mateo told me not to confront him. He'd find out himself. The next morning, Ethan picked me up with flowers. He drove me to a glass building overlooking the river, opened a safe in a small conference room, and set it on the table. I noticed his hands first, pale knuckles, tendons shifting like they were bracing for impact. Inside was a thick envelope bound with a rubber band, a folded police report, a flash drive, and a necklace I'd lost when I was 19. He took a trembling breath. "Before I met you," he said, "my sister dated a guy from your neighborhood. She got pulled into a robbery with 2 others. She called me, terrified. I called the tip line. I gave what I knew: the car, the jacket, the alley. I thought I was saving her." His voice lowered. "I never knew names. I didn't realize, until you told me about Mateo." He explained the photocopy, the flash drive, the envelope for the clerk who'd been hurt. He said he'd kept my necklace to give back when he could tell me the truth. "I met you before I knew how deep this river ran," he said. "I'm telling you now because the past has teeth, and I'm done letting it bite in the dark." That night, I brought Mateo the photocopy and the drive. We met in the bakery after hours. Ethan came too. They stood across from each other, no handshakes, just truth. Ethan told the story, steady and unflinching. Mateo listened, jaw tight. Then Mateo asked if Ethan would testify if the people who profited from the robbery came after us. Ethan said yes, even if it cost him everything. Mateo nodded. "There's still a name missing. The cousin worked for someone." Money started moving through our streets after that night. Whoever warned me to stop asking questions didn't want the past opened because the present is profitable. Ethan's eyes flickered. "My sister mentioned a woman they called La Madrina, not a blessing, a broker. She moved between fundraisers and funerals like both belonged to her." My stomach turned cold. La Madrina. The one Mrs. Vidal had whispered about years ago. The one I thought would never matter. A car engine idled outside. Headlights swept across the bakery glass. A text buzzed on my phone. "Please step outside, Ms. Rivera. Bring the men you are with. We have donations to discuss." Mateo's eyes sharpened. Ethan's hand brushed mine. I opened the bakery door. A black SUV waited at the curb. The window slid down. A woman in silk smiled without showing teeth. She said my name. She said we could make the past quiet again if we kept certain promises. All it would cost was loyalty. All it would cost was choosing. Behind me, Mateo's shoulder was solid. Beside me, Ethan's fingers trembled against mine. Inside my chest, love and survival tore at each other. Mango trees and sirens, careful kisses and reckless devotion, the fantasy of walking away from both, knowing neither might let me. Every instinct screamed a different answer. and I knew whichever one I picked could decide if I saw another sunrise without running. I stepped forward. I opened my mouth. I chose. And then another SUV rolled up behind hers, the door swinging open before I could take a breath.